Welcome to Exploring Digital with Purr, a podcast for entrepreneurs and CEOs who want their businesses to benefit from a digital-first approach.
Hi, and welcome to another episode of Exploring Digital with Purr. I'm joined today by Nikki Cunningham, who's the Strategy Director at Curious. Hi, Nikki.
Hi, Nick. How's it going?
Very well. How are you?
I'm not too bad. It's funny, there's not much to update because we're just here.
No, you can't tell me about your commute or what you had for lunch.
No, I did at the weekend even. But no, we're doing well. So that's good.
Excellent. So do you want to kick us off by telling me a little bit about Curious, but also Nikki and how you came to be Strategy Director at Curious?
Yeah. So Curious is a strategic branding agency. We're based in Covent Garden and here, which is my flat in West London. And we deal with everything from brand identity, brand strategy, websites, digital, naming. I don't know, anything that touches on brand. We tend to get involved in. And my role is strategy director. So that involves just working with clients, understanding what it is that they want to achieve, quite often speaking about their businesses in general and their business strategy, and then working out how that needs to map to a brand. And then I work with our creative team to bring that to life visually, and also through messaging and tone of voice and everything in between.
Fantastic. So you sit the other side of the table, I guess, from us, where we come from a technology strategy perspective, and you make it more about the customer side rather than hopefully what's going on in the nuts and bolts. So what we're trying a new thing with this series of podcasts, and it's a bit of a Jungian psychology, one-word response test. So we're going to try this out and see what you come up with. So if you could please, in one word, respond to the following: Curious.
Discover.
Nikki.
I just spelled my last name. Scottish.
Accurate, yeah. Curious team.
Explorers.
Curious and its work.
Inspiring.
Dogs.
Amazing.
Favorite Let's just wait for that one.
Is that a Hoover or?
It's a carpenter.
Ah.
Oh, come on. He's been quiet for ages. Favorite childhood book? I might just ask him to stop for a second. Favorite childhood book?
Should I keep going?
Yeah.
Favorite childhood book would be A Spot of Bother by Mark Haddon. A good one.
Very good. Friends or How I Met Your Mother?
Friends. And
agency sector?
Is in the type of, is in the services within it, or?
As in, what it is that, if you had to describe what Curious's specialism is in one word, let's go with.
See, I'm a typical strategist. I always want to ask more questions. Technology.
Excellent. Well, thank you for that. I'm sure we'll turn that into something nice with less noise of a planer outside, which would be fantastic. So, really good to hear about Curious, and always good to be talking to people about brand strategy at a really interesting post-COVID time. Because I know we're probably moving from a stage where we've not been able to, or businesses haven't really been able to plan very far ahead, and people starting to take the tentative steps of planning a little further ahead and living less in the day-to-day and thinking less about the one month and more about the 3 month again.
I hope so.
So really, really challenging times. And the focus of this podcast series is now about innovation, because we see it in so many different ways in companies from a technology perspective. But brand is a really interesting way in which even really big companies have been innovating, because there's so many ways in which the customer journey and dialogue has evolved really in the last few months. So what would you say, the innovation or the biggest sort of changes in innovation you've seen at Curious have been in terms of the way brands and big brands have been thinking about strategy, and what you've been doing as a company to support that?
That's a good question. I think that, we were fortunate when we went into lockdown that a lot of our clients happened to be in the technology industry. That's not kind of on purpose. It just seems to have been the way of things. So, I think when you get into that world, they're constantly having to come up with different solutions for the clients. Getting everyone to kind of think about what that means for their brand now that everything's changed is a bit more of a challenge. And I think that for a while, as with every other industry, business, everyone, it was a case of everyone kind of stopping, understanding what the heck's going on, and then slowly starting to realize what they need to do now. And I think that's that period that we're entering into, which I'm excited about, because I see brand as such a valuable thing to help people get through these next 3 months, 6 months. I think that's all people can really think about at this point in time. And, I'm starting to see from, our existing clients and new clients as well coming to us and starting to ask questions of their brands that they weren't asking before, understanding, the lengths that a brand can go to help a business, more so than just, we need a new logo, our website looks rubbish. Speaking more about how is it that our brand values can really stack up against our internal communications from an HR perspective. Speaking about how is it that my website can help launch these new products that we never thought that we would do, but now we have to do. And how is it that we can get it up running fast? Sorry, someone's at my door right now. But I think that, I think that it's forced a lot of change, and it's kind of what was maybe going to happen in the next 5 years for a lot of companies has happened in the last 6 months. And so now people are starting to understand what are the implications of that, and how is it that we can kind of catch up almost to what's happened before.
So have you had to change much of how you've worked at Curious, or change the way you've spoken to clients or communicated with clients to support that?
Yeah, I mean, well, we had the initial kind of shocker of a time just trying to work out what we do as a design company that works with people and ideas. Going completely remote was something that we'd never tried before. Had been something that we'd wanted to do. But it never felt like it would be as possible. Really great that someone's at my door right now. So it was something that we'd always wanted to do, flexible working, but we were kind of pushed into it, as I think that a lot of people were, and I think after we got the initial setup right, can we start that again? Because I feel like I was just blabbing on about nothing.
Don't worry. Yeah. Do you want me to ask the question again?
Yeah, if you wouldn't mind. I don't think that was a very good response.
So have you and the team at Curious had to change the way you're working with clients or communicating with clients to support all these new ways that they're thinking?
Yeah, so I think, us as a business, in a similar way that everyone had to work out very quickly, we had to kind of completely change the way that we worked with each other and our clients. One of the main challenges for us was that we didn't understand how we could, go into complete remote working when we're a company that works with people and ideas in one room together. Suddenly we were sat at our kitchen tables with just, our computers, and we had to try and make that work. But I think after the initial week or so of just getting used to the setups, and again, everyone will have gone through this, we started to understand actually the planning that needs to go in. As long as we planned that in and had regular communication, set up Slack, everything that now feels second nature to us. At that point was completely new and fresh. But luckily, a lot of our clients happen to be based globally as well. So one of our main clients is in Missouri in the States. So we've never actually met in person. It's always been on video calls. So it doesn't really matter where we are. Likewise with a number of other clients. And I think the thing that it's funny speaking about this now because it feels really old to everyone. I think that everyone's kind of gone through so many different cycles of content and seeing stuff online. And, the first thing was lockdown. How is it that you can create, great communication through your team? And then it went into, a period of time where people were thinking, actually, this flexible working thing, there's more to it than we initially thought. How is it that we can keep all of the good bits? And are we going fully remote forever? And Twitter and Google announcing that they were going to immediately, allow everyone to work from home indefinitely, to this period now, which I think is really interesting because everyone's kind of settling into, this transition period whereby, okay, we know that no one's going to want to work remote forever and never see anyone ever again. But equally, we know that we don't want to go back to our daily commute. How is it that we can balance that out? And I think that those conversations are happening now in every building. And if they're not, then there's probably something wrong. I think that it was an initial shift in how we worked, and now it's kind of all about just working out, how is it that we can really take all the good bits that we've learned through this period of time and apply it to not just our own business, but also help our clients get through that.
So you've got a real mix of clients you work with, everyone from very techie companies to more established big brands. And was there a real variety in sort of how quickly or well those teams adapted to that challenge? And did you find you're having to work in a different way to support brands that were less well suited, or is it now pretty consistent?
Sorry, could you say that question again?
Yeah, I don't think I phrased it very well. So you guys work with a real mix of companies, everyone from very techie startups to big brands. Were the techie startups better suited and faster to adapt than the big companies? And was there a bit of a kind of an interim period where you were having to work in a variety of different ways to support people, but now it's more consistent?
Yeah, I mean, I think that, to be honest, that, working out how to help our clients, and how to adapt and change the way that we work with them based on who they are, isn't something that actually is specific to just lockdown in this period of time. I think that something that we have to deal with as a branding agency is the fact that every single company that comes to us is so different. Even if they're in the same sector, they could work completely different. And so for me, as working in strategy, it's my job to basically sit right next to them and understand what it is that they need and what it is that they should be thinking about, and kind of really guiding them through how their brand needs to be adapting and changing to help them. And I think that, yes, obviously, tech companies that were remote working already are better set up to deal with the initial period of lockdown. But now we're kind of on a level pegging. I think that, even, we work with some food industry clients, and after that initial kind of I don't know if I can swear on this, but holy shit moment of just kind of having to stop completely. Now, because they had a brand that was able to carry them through and it was strong enough at the beginning of all of this, they've worked that out. And they've kind of done the home delivery service. They've done, everything that they need to do to kind of get on a level playing field. And now that's why I think also this is going to be a really interesting moment for brands, because it's a case of how strong was your brand going into this, and the answer to that question will let you know what's going to happen in the next 3 to 6 months. Because if it wasn't strong enough, you will already know that, and it should be questions on everyone's lips, which is what is it that our brand needs to now do to kind of change. A really good example of just a quite a well-known brand is look at the gym sector. So I think gyms nowadays seem to have really strong brands and identities, and it's very kind of interesting what's been going on in that sector for a number of years. The gym that I go to is called Gymbox, which has been a brand that's been pretty good at what they do for about 20 years now. Very, very strong tone of voice, absolutely sure of themselves. There's a very clear message that they want to give out to their customers. As soon as lockdown was announced, they were one of the first to go on to Instagram live workouts. They were the first to launch an app that had the workouts that you could subscribe to, and everything that they put out, their email communication, marketing, everything was absolutely on point. And when they did get it wrong, they would be very quick to change it. The reason that they were able to do that and to get through to the other side, where now gyms are open again, and they're in quite a good position, all things considered, is because their brand was so strong before now. And so if you're on the opposite side of it and you were kind of getting through with just a website that was doing okay, and some messaging that you'd kind of repurposed a number of times, very quickly that dries up, and very quickly everyone kind of asks the question, so what? So I think that's quite interesting.
Interesting. Yes. So, in a way, too late for many brands to be on the back foot at the point of lockdown, and now people are not only trying to recover, but put steps in place or strategies in place that would mean that if there was another lockdown, that they'd be just as well prepared going into it.
Yeah, and I think that it's one of those things that no one would have expected before now, but this has all happened, and it's going to have completely changed everyone's strategies. And I think that that's going to be for the next however many years, and more so, everyone needs to be kind of ready for something like this to happen again, and everyone needs to be looking at their brand and saying, can this be working more for us? Can this be working harder?
Perfect. Okay. And you mentioned earlier that there was a real kind of evolution in terms of what content people were producing, and how they communicated it. And you mentioned as well some brands did it well, and it was in line with their tone of voice. And that was something that I guess we had to do as an agency. We just started this podcast at the beginning of lockdown, and suddenly we changed direction straight away, and it became about businesses and agencies responding to COVID. And in a post-lockdown world, we're evolving it again, and it's now about what are the innovations that are coming out of it. What in a totally new world, what are the things that companies are trying to do that's different? Did you see? You've seen two sides to it, I guess, because no doubt Curious was also producing content through lockdown, but then you've also seen the branding side. Was there any particular content that you did that worked really well, or that you've seen that worked well with companies you were working with?
Yeah, so I think initially the whole kind of novelty of Zoom wore off for lots of people very quickly, and you kind of saw on the TV the repeated adverts that everyone was putting out of them working from home, and kind of even now you see it. But I thought that it was quite interesting how long those actually lasted. Like huge brands that are still kind of playing the slow piano music saying that they're here for you. They didn't get it at all, and they completely, missed the mark in terms of people's expectations, because very quickly that gets old. I think that it was, really interesting just seeing how quickly brands could learn and adapt from their audiences, and the ones that were, slow to do that were almost, even more visibly getting it wrong than they would in normal times, because everyone was just so used to the same content that it becomes kind of white noise. So anytime a brand was able to break through that and do something different and, get there quicker, people were starting to take note. And you saw that from, there's a number of different companies that were able to use their brand to do something different. Harley Davidson is a brand that is quite interesting for various reasons, but they did a quite a funny advert that went out, and it was just something completely different and very, very refreshing to interrupt all of the piano music that you heard from, the various banks that keep saying that they're there for you, as if they weren't there for you before, but now they're there for you even more, and it really matters. And now they really care, as before they didn't. So I think that, in general, brands were, to a varying level, learning quickly. And in terms of, what we've been doing and what we've been seeing from our clients, so for a branding agency, we finally had, the chance to actually look at our own brand and think about, what it is that we need to do to kind of speak differently or change, or just kind of take a moment to see if we could do anything better. And that was really good for us. And we were able to look at our website again, launch a new website, which has been up for about 2 weeks now, and I'm sure everyone will go and look at it now. It looks,
it's a really nice website.
I'm hoping that it doesn't, but really the whole kind of reasoning behind that was understanding actually what it means for us. We're a creative agency. We call ourselves curious. Are we really curious? Are we actually kind of really investigating that and exploring that and kind of probing it enough so that when we say it, we can actually mean it? And I think that everything that we did on the website is all kind of geared around that. So that was one thing that we were able to do. And take the time to actually make sure we're really proud of it. And that's something that I can, I'm really happy to say that we are. I think that, other stuff that we were doing, we're just kind of, we're trying to have a bit of fun and being a bit more creative when we are kind of all penned up in our flats and various, different rooms that we're sitting at, desks, garden, offices, I don't know, wherever anyone is. You do have more time to think a bit more and come up with different things that we can do. So we've done some kind of fun videos, and then one of the main things that I think is interesting and kind of relevant to what we're speaking about today is an initiative that we're launching next week, actually, called the What's Next workshop. Very catchy name. But the whole kind of idea behind that is that transition period that I spoke about earlier. Everyone should be asking the question, okay, so what's next? What are we in for next? What's coming up on the horizon? Because everything keeps changing all the time. We can't grab hold of anything. And so to ask that question, what's next? And really explore it and understand how it's different for every brand that we come across, I think is really interesting. So this initiative that we're launching is to try and see if we can help companies work that out and try and see if, actually some of the answers might be found in their brand rather than, a business strategy or, the team itself. I think now is the point when your brand, if it's not showing up, if it's not doing a good enough job, it's time to really make it work hard. And I think that, the same way that people have been looking at their talent pool and looking at their business models and really questioning it and saying, look, did this get us through a global pandemic? We don't know what's on the horizon. We need to make sure that, we're really paying attention to that. There's no reason and no excuse that brands shouldn't be held accountable as well. It's not good enough just to have a logo and a website that does the job. It's not good enough anymore. People are, raising their expectations even more so. And so, gone is the piano music that you hear in the background. It's now a question of what is it that we need to do next. And so that's the whole kind of idea behind this initiative that we're launching. And it's supposed to be something that is easy to do and get involved in. We're running it. I think we're running it for a limited time to see, the interest that we get from it. It's all going to be, just out of our goodwill to see if we can help companies and just kind of discover more about them. And it would be a brand context report. So to actually just kind of look at the brand, see what's going on in the sector, what it is that they're doing, and then do a workshop to then discuss the results of that context report, and then understand and actually have a discussion about where it is that they want to go and what the brand needs to do to adjust to that. And then the final stage is to actually kind of write a bit of an action plan, because I think that so often people kind of talk about these things, but then it's like, okay, what do we need to do next? So that's what we're doing, and hopefully we can actually help some companies out there just who are maybe questioning their brand and are a bit concerned about what's up and coming. So should be quite fun.
Well, it sounds like it's worked for you guys as a process, because evidently the action plan that came out of your own internal What's Next workshop was, well, let's get this new website going, and evolve the positioning and the content. So if you were to flip that around and say, well, what do you think the wider agency sector is going to have to go through? What's next for other agencies like considering other branding and creative agencies? Do you think they'd get similar things out of a What's Next workshop? Is it going to be about revisiting brand, or do you think other agencies have got bigger problems to face?
Yeah, potentially. I mean, I think that I think that there are we have to kind of get away from the rules that we were governed by before. I think that a lot of collaboration is going to be happening. A lot of this, people getting more used to connecting online and not meeting in person and actually seeing what they can do together. I think that's so interesting and so exciting, because the world of agencies is so different, and there's going to be so much change, and so many agencies, unfortunately, will probably not make it through this period of time. But equally, a lot of agencies will come from this moment, and so it's a chance to really kind of look at what it is that you're doing, look at what you want to achieve as a business, and see what help is out there, and actually how you can kind of start to grow something together. I think that, I mean, it is unfortunately really cliche to say this, but if you aren't looking at these challenges and seeing opportunities, there's a real issue there. And I think that when we went into all of this, I said that if we are a business that tries to snap back to doing exactly what it was that we were doing before, working in exactly the same way, we will fail. So you have to change, and it has to be something that is exciting. You kind of have to see that, I think, otherwise it would be very, very depressing.
Absolutely, yes. It's better to focus on the positives, as you say, and think, well, what can we do that's different? So, a what's next process for an agency might be, well, what we have to change everything, and that's a good process. That's healthy.
I think that change is so exciting. I think that it's being a little bit scared is a good thing, so long as you have a bit of a focus. If you get stuck in a rut, which, to be honest, a lot of businesses would have been in that position before. They would have been trying to go through, the same processes, doing the same thing, hoping that something works out and kind of just getting by. The reality is that this whole situation has shown us that there's now no excuses. If you aren't on the top of your game, if you are not really kind of challenging things and doing things differently, and you don't have the best team around you, there's something missing there. So I think that kind of change is good.
So if you were going to distill that into your one sort of top tip for post-COVID brand strategy for any number of the companies you guys work with, what would you say it would be?
I would say, get comfortable with being uncomfortable. Get used to not knowing what's ahead and be okay with that. And, look at what you've got going for you and work out how to make that the absolute best thing it can be. Because there's no rules anymore. We have to kind of write a new book. And that should be a great opportunity. You just need to see it that way, and to look at your brand and really start asking questions about it and make sure that it's working as hard for you as it should be.
Some great advice. And being uncomfortable and being forced to communicate in new ways and be more public facing than people wanted to be. It's all healthy. It's going to be fun to see who comes out the other side.
I just think it's great that this whole situation across the globe, I mean, it's so crazy to, like, in 20 years' time, we'll be talking about this, how this completely leveled the playing field for every single company, clients, agencies, partners, everyone will have at one point been working from their own home. And everyone would have been faffing around with the technology, trying to make it work. And everyone would have had, a failed Zoom call or some interruptions going in the background that they'd have to deal with, or a cat jumping on their laptop. And I just think that it makes people feel normal in the sense that everyone was in the same boat. At one point in time, this whole world was in the same boat, trying to work through this crazy situation. And now that level playing field is getting unlevel again. And I think that that's where it gets interesting, because if you can kind of get ahead, then there's real opportunities there.
Well, some fantastic advice, and I really hope that lots of companies take up the offer of your What's Next workshops. It sounds like they'll be challenged to think differently.
Yeah, absolutely.
Brilliant. Well, Nikki, it's been fantastic talking to you, and thanks for getting through all the disruptions over there, and best of luck with your holiday to the Lake District.
Thanks so much. It was great talking to you, Nick.
And you.
Thanks for joining. Remember to subscribe and follow us, and to share today's insights with other businesses who want to stay relevant in a digital-first world.